Texas Tech can win it all, guys, and I'm going to tell you why they can. They have a massive non-negotiable called David Bailey, Romello Height, called Lee Hutner, Skylar Jill Howard before he was injured, and Jacob Rodriguez. Their defensive front, but especially that defensive line, is a non-negotiable. It just is. When you combine for 17 and a half sacks between your defensive ends, when you are number one by a mile in ESPN's defensive efficiency from ESPN's FPI, and the other team that is competing with you in that category, Ohio State, for example, they have played a similar level of strength of schedule to you. So you actually have an argument to have the number one defense. And you have two elite pass rushers in David Bailey and Romello Height. And you have two seniors in Terrell Tillman and Charles Esters, the third behind them. You have A.J. Holmes, Amir Washington, Jaden Cofield. It is a deep defensive line. They have only suffered one critical injury to Skylar Jill Howard. Sadly, he's out for the year. That's a non-negotiable. That is a prerequisite to winning it all, is having a at least great or elite college defensive line. This is an NFL defensive line, not in the sense that it's better than any of the NFL D lines, but they have legitimate NFL players on them. Indiana, for example, has a great, maybe elite collegiate offensive line. It does not have the NFL talent or upside that Texas Tech does. And hearkening back to my strength of schedule comments, let's look. So Ohio State is 41st in strength of schedule. Texas Tech is 47th. And when you look at ESPN's defensive efficiency here, Texas Tech is first with a 95.1 defensive efficiency. Ohio State is second with a 92.3. Texas Tech is further ahead of Ohio State, about as far ahead of Ohio State that Ohio State is ahead of Oregon in defensive efficiency. That is crazy. And on the season, look, they have 29 total sacks. This is in 10 games. They have 11 interceptions. And more impressively, they have 17 forced fumbles. And Jacob Rodriguez has 7 of them with a fumble recovery and a touchdown. He also has 3 interceptions. And he has the it factor where he just makes plays when they need to be made. And models can't account for that. It's the same thing with David Bailey. Bailey has over 10 sacks. He's averaging more than a sack per game, a little more than a sack per game. You can't account for that. You can't. How good he is, how good Jacob Rodriguez is. And on top of the defensive line, and more specifically their pass rush from their defensive ends, their defensive front is good. I mean, they're second in havoc rate forced with an 18.4% defensive havoc rate. That means almost 1 out of every 5 of their opponents' plays are fumbles, interceptions, sacks, tackles for loss, stuffed runs, or incomplete passes. That is crazy stuff. Actually, I don't know if it is incomplete passes, but it's negative plays for sure and turnovers. That's nuts. That's absolutely crazy. When you look at it from a yards allowed per carry standpoint, Texas Tech only allows 4 yards per carry. And they've played Utah. They've played BYU. They've played some of the better rushing offenses in the Big 12 and arguably in America. When you look at what they allow from a passing standpoint or from a total success rate standpoint, let's go there first. From a total success rate standpoint, Tech is 6th in total success rate. They are tied for first in adjusted EPA per play allowed. They are first in just unadjusted EPA per play allowed. In yards per play allowed, they are 4th, only allowing 4.61. Crazy stuff. Texas Tech's defense might be the best defense in the country, and that would be a prerequisite to winning it all, is having one of the top-end defenses. And Tech, along with Ohio State and Oregon and Indiana, and if Alabama continues to trend the way they are, they're those are some of the teams that are in that camp. Rushing offense, they're not fantastic there, but Cameron Dickey has been a great running back this year, and Jacoby Williams, they have almost 1,500 total rushing yards and 16 rushing touchdowns. They get a lot of explosive runs. This channel will make you a college football expert and help you enjoy watching games and make more accurate predictions. So what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment your thoughts, and watch the video all the way through so that you can get the full package. And check the description and pinned comment for more ways to help yourself and this channel. The offensive line with Howard Sampson, Will Jados, Sheridan Wilson, Davion Carter, and Jacob Ponton is one of the better lines of scrimmage in the Big 12. When you average that with their defensive line, they probably have the best lines of scrimmage in the Big 12, along with Utah, who they beat up on the lines of scrimmage in Salt Lake City. So the Red Raiders here, they have this capacity to just game control their opponents because of that rushing offense and also because of the defense. And that, along with their overall team efficiency, where they're first in defensive efficiency, they're third in overall efficiency. You want to look at FEI, which measures teams in standard deviations above the mean, above the median. Indiana's first there, Ohio State's second, Oregon is third, Georgia is fourth, Utah is fifth, Notre Dame sixth, Alabama seventh, Texas Tech is eighth. And Tech killed that Utah team in Salt Lake City. So there's a lot of upside to move there. And in ESPN's FPI, Tech right now is 11th. And I can tell you the reason why they're that low, little thing called priors. That's why they're that low. Priors in the fact that while they're very talented from an NFL standpoint, from a high school recruiting standpoint, they're not all that talented. If not for priors affecting them even more negatively than Indiana, because Indiana was far better than Tech last year, let's remember that, they would be top 10 in FPI. And in S&P Plus from Bill Connolly, they are, I believe, they're either fourth or they're fifth. Let me check on that right now. Live research. Yes, they are fourth with a 25.2 overall rating, 11th offense, 5th defense, 41st special teams. They're an efficiency machine. They're well coached. They are disciplined, and they're deep, and they're strong. And finally, Morton, when healthy, is a great quarterback. Elite, probably not, but good enough to get the job done. Absolutely. Morton is injured. He can't really stay healthy this year. And now with Will Hammond out, you're going to have to rely on Mitch Griffiths if Baron Morton goes down. You will not want to rely. You won't want to rely on Mitch Griffiths, who has played for several years before at Wake Forest, wasn't really all that good. But Morton has a 163.1 pass rating, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, took a ton of sacks against BYU, but he's 45th in QBR, and he's completing 65.7% of his throws. I think he's better than what he showed against BYU, and he just needs to get a little bit healthier. And I think with time, and with some of the opponents they have on this schedule, they can probably load manage and help him get back to being healthy in time to play well in the Big 12 championship. That is why Texas Tech can win it all, guys. When you have the defensive line play that they have and the team efficiency where they've just shown time and time and time again with a strength of schedule that is at an Ohio State level, and they're not quite Ohio State, but they're close from an efficiency angle, why can't they win it all? Like, Ohio State is up there in title odds. And much like Texas Tech, they've really had, well, one big game. And Ohio State won theirs against Texas. Texas Tech won theirs against Utah. I don't really count BYU as a big of a game as that Utah game. Again, I have Ohio State ahead of obviously BYU, but Texas Tech. But that doesn't mean Tech can't find itself a situation where they play 3 or 4 good games in a row, suffocate their opponents on defense, especially if they get a good draw in the bracket, which will be advantageous for anyone. Maybe they hoist the trophy. It sounds crazy. I thought it was crazy, but after having conversations with people I trust, looking over this defensive front play, and those efficiency metrics have been high since week 1. We're entering week 12, and they're still about as high as they were at the start of the year. I think Tech can do it. And that is a credit to Joey McGuire. That is a credit to their staff, especially defensive coordinator Sheil Wood, who commands that defense. And that is also a credit to their general manager, James Blanchard, who declined going to Notre Dame to be their general manager. And all their transfer portal additions have panned out, and they panned out really well. So it's a nice operation they have, and it's a wonderful story. And I think they could actually get it done. Thank you for watching. It's my mission on College Football with Sam to make you the most informed, knowledgeable, and entertained fan as possible. We aren't perfect, but we hit the nail on the head more often than we hit our thumb with the hammer. Make sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment, and if you're here, you've probably already watched the whole video. So thank you for doing those things.